I haven't heard or seen anything more since that meeting that came up. I also, once again, asked the commission to help correct the discriminatory practices currently occurring at the airport, namely the legal charges for the runway paving project in 2016. That still is our balance, and I have resolved. Have a clear definition of what constitutes commercial use as fair and equitable for all users at the airport. And an eviction plan for tax evaders living in their hands. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing anyone else in our audience this evening. We will close the open forum portion of the meeting. We need an approval on the airport meeting minutes from August 6th.
I have read the minutes of this afternoon. I believe the correct is written. Therefore, I'll move to accept the minutes.
A motion to approve. Second, all in favor? Aye. Passes. All right, we will move on to the regular agenda items. Mr. Stotts, City Administrator Stotts, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, on the regular agenda, we have what I've termed financials and claims list. This is a relatively new thing. Maybe you've had it before prior to my time here, but we've got a new finance director, and it was an opportune time to kind of reset the expectations around what you guys should be seeing in terms of financial reporting from us, and then sort of endorsement of claims or invoices that we get that that go against the airport budget. So what you see in your packet is the financials through Q3, so the end of September, and it just sort of gives you a picture of where we're at, both revenue and expense wise, and we've stripped out the expenditures on capital items just to give you a better flavor of the operating budget and where we're at with that. There's also a number of footnotes because things that aren't maybe obvious to the casual observer when you look at some of these things are hopefully explained by some of those footnotes, including some of the things that are grant reimbursed. So it's, long story short, it's a bit complicated, but I would take any questions on it. The idea is just to be informational for you. And I've seen other committees and commissions simply make a motion to accept the financial report. It doesn't mean you're that you've reviewed and approved it necessarily, just that you're acknowledging the receipt of it. In conjunction with the financials, then we've provided a list of claims. And again, these are claims that are paid by the city. So these have all been on a city council meeting agenda at one point or another. But I think it is prudent to bring those to you so that in case you think one of these should not be assigned to the airport budget or something of that nature, now would be the time for you to kind of express that and have a discussion about whether or not those expenses seem appropriate. There's a number of different pages because each time we have a council meeting, we have a list of claims, and so I just pulled all of those off of old agendas. Again, I would take questions on any of those items, the financials or the claims, and then we could I'd look for a motion to just accept those financial reports.
I'm a little bit, I'm not an accountant, and I look at these numbers, I wouldn't be comfortable making the motion to approval. And
that's okay. I think, if the chair, if you don't feel, compelled to take a motion, we're not gonna live and die by that. It's just something I've seen other commissions do. I hate to approve something that I don't know much about.
I think it's good to see the numbers. Like, I'm looking at a telephone bill for $175 a month. What are we paying for? We can get internet for less than $50 a month. Why are we paying $175 a month?
These are the great questions we hope to solicit when we put this kind of stuff in front of you. Where exactly?
That's on page 17 of 47. That's check number 2486. I understand we need internet because we have the connection to the gas pump is the internet.
Sure.
But again, the internet connection maybe that's something that's just been held over for years and years that we've been paying because we used to have a landline out there. or something
No, it's
like
a-
that.
That's a great observation.
But anyway, I just happened to see that the other day when I was going through. In that light, and noticing something like that, it's not a bad idea to send this past us. But, that's, I don't think it's the airport commission to approve.
Sure. I would certainly take that note back and try to report back to you on what that is.
It's, you don't have to report back to me, somebody should just understand what it is for, and what we're paying for out there.
Yeah, and if I could explain it to you right now, I would. It does seem high, and if it's a monthly bill, that seems high. If it's a
Yeah, maybe.
annual bill or something, who knows, yeah.
And
So one other thing I noted, in the packet too, MinDOT said that, things that they would maintain a functioning airport. They said something in there about grass had to be cut, 7 feet away from the runway. And they had to be no longer than 6 inches. And I spent a lot of time out there this summer, and it seems like the mower was always up there. And the mower coming past my hangar, I mean, it was short. I mean, is there a way to contact Dave and to see if we can maybe some of the expenses about having a person out there cutting all the time? Or?
Yeah, we could certainly cut back on.
maybe we don't need it 2 inches tall, like,
Yeah.
like that to 6 inches. I mean, this was an unusually wet, so I know I was cutting my yard every 5 days.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's something for Dave to be aware of anyway.
Yep.
6 inches is not a big deal.
Sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks great out there.
Yeah.
It's fine, yeah.
Good. Any other comments on the financials or claims?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll certainly look into the telephone issue there.
Airport lighting and maintenance.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, item 5B, we have airport lighting here, and that is a contract that we solicited a quote to have this ongoing maintenance done. Aerotech is a sort of a spin-off, I believe, here of Neo Electric, and who has been providing this service to us over the last year or so. And they're very expert at doing this sort of work and have done a great job for us. We do still do some maintenance of light bulb changing type of stuff, but there's a little bit more to it technically that's probably above our expertise, that we ask these folks to step in and help us out with, and they do a great job. So we're asking for the Airport Commission to endorse that contract and recommend that we enter into a contract with the city.
Yeah, my only question when I read that was, what is the level of expertise in the zoning to have a level? I Googled them, they don't exist.
Yeah, they're fairly new, like I say, a spin-off. It's the guys that were with Neo Electric that are spinning off their own company, as I understand it.
Okay, and Silas, do you have any thoughts on that? Are you familiar with these guys or what they do? I know we've had issues with our lighting, and I'm not gonna say it's because of the maintenance guys, but I know we've had some issues with Pappies and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I know about these gentlemen, Mr. Stever, and they both previously worked for Neo Electric. I believe Corey is actually lives here in Forest Lake and may or may not have his hangar, I think, or his airplane out there at the hangar. But no, they both previously were doing the maintenance with Neo Electric, and then they left to form their own company. So both of these gentlemen are very knowledgeable about airport lighting.
We wanna make a motion to go, what are you looking for us exactly? Is the one stated on here?
Yeah, hopefully I got a
Find it.
staff report here.
It's our contract, in fact.
Yeah, so the staff recommendation would be to have a motion to have the Airport Commission recommend City Council approve the proposal from Aerotech Companies for the airport lighting maintenance in 2026.
I want to make a motion to recommend the city council to approve this proposal for Aerotech companies for airport lighting and maintenance of 2026.
I will second the motion. Any discussion? No, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Yes. Move on to the next.
So item 5C is getting into our grant recommendation for, this is the maintenance and operations grant. So this is separate from the capital grants we'll talk about a little later in the evening. This grant is a pretty standard grant. As far as grants go, it's almost just an annual appropriation, but technically it is a grant we apply for biannually, and that rolls with the state's biennium fiscal policy. So a number of items, as you saw in those financials, had a footnote that said these are grant eligible. And so most of our operations and maintenance costs are eligible for reimbursement through this grant up to a maximum. And that's provided here. I should say, first of all, that they're 75% reimbursable, but then there's a max cap on how much we can collect. We typically blow through that, and I think almost every airport does. I don't think anyone's scratching at, scratching to get there. So want to remind folks of that fact that there is a maximum, because sometimes I hear people say, well, yeah, but MnDOT reimburses us for 75, yeah, but only up to a certain amount, and then we're on our own after that. So that cap is $18,609 every year. And it's well appreciated, but it certainly doesn't cover all of our costs. So again, there we're looking for a motion to support the execution of the attached grant agreement for ongoing maintenance and operations costs at the airport in fiscal years 26 and 27 through MnDOT's aviation division. And one of the reasons I wanted to point out here that it's important for the Airport Commission, I think, to endorse this grant agreement is that it does have some strings attached to it, right? There are some requirements that I pointed out here that in order to get this grant, you have to maintain an aeronautical purpose, an airport with aeronautical purposes, going forward. Makes sense, right? You take this grant money and then turn it into an industrial park. That's not what it's for, right? So, yep.
So you're just looking for a recommendation to move forward with this grant proposal,
Correct.
approval of the grant proposal.
You would be recommending to the city council that we execute the grant agreement with the state. So,
That's just a paper process, if you just do it by hand.
yep.
I'll make a motion to support the execution of the attached grant agreement for ongoing maintenance and operation costs at the airport in state fiscal years 2026 and 2027 for MnDOT aviation.
And all in favor, or any other discussion, or all three of us? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Then, Mr. Chair, we're on to item 5D, the airport capital project grants. We were successful in getting approval for all three of our grant projects that we had into the hopper here. And there was a first round of funding, if you recall, that we didn't quite make the cut, but boy, we were maybe 2 or 3 projects below the cut line, Silas, I think, and we were quickly told that, don't worry, there's a second round of funding coming. And of course, they thought that would be by the end of September, and it was mid to late October before we got word. But good news is that we did receive award of these grants, and now we need to make a decision about whether or not we're going to accept those grants. There are 3 different grants as we applied for them. There's the apron expansion, so that's the area where we have the tie downs and whatnot. Then we have, as separate projects, the main taxiway extension and the runway extension. Sometimes you might see in here, we're sort of talking about those 2 projects in conjunction with each other. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to do one without the other. I suppose you could, but it seems to me that it's best practice to do both of them if we're going to do one of them, right? And then we, just to kind of reset our minds here about this whole process, when we put our application in for these, MnDOT was awarding grants at a 95% participation level. In midstream, they kind of changed that on us and went down to 90%. And so some of the monies that we had looked at being able to fund through our airport, we had to come up with some additional funds for that. As the commenter from the public said earlier, we do not have that money in the airport fund at this point in time. As you saw the financials, by the end of the year, we're not gonna have the kind of capital we would need. In work sessions with the city council, the council has been supportive of helping these projects along and making sure that we can get them off the ground. And I think that they're supportive of sort of playing the bank here and fronting the money. However, what I wanted to go through in this agenda item is the idea that capital expenses at the airport, including new additions to the airport, that enhance the livability, workability, whatever you want to call it, usability, safety of the airport, are part and parcel with the operations and maintenance of the costs of the airport. And it's our general philosophy that the airport should be self-sustaining, and that we would expect that the revenues that come into the airport fund help pay that our participation in these projects back over time. That revenue might come from gas sales, it might come from taxes, it might come from any other source, including the grants that we get and that kind of thing. But it also includes hangar rents, and I want to be upfront about the idea that hangar rents on an annual basis will be evaluated based on the costs of operating that airport, and that they would be commensurate with keeping pace. And so while we don't propose here a direct charge to hangar owners for these improvements, we would expect that the hangar rents are a part of the way we fund this airport, and that we also understand that the capital expenses to improve this airport are part of the budget for the airport. Therefore, hangar rents could be affected by taking on these projects. Does that make sense to people?
I've got a quick question. When I read through this, we looked at, we pay tax on our current buildings. It's not a property tax, is it?
It is a property tax.
It-
It's right on your property tax. Property tax.
Okay.
Annually, you pay additional ground lease rent as a separate.
Yeah.
So the ground lease is in the budget. And then I looked, and there's 3 people that benefit from that: property tax, and the city's the largest, school district is second in the county. So did I read someplace in here that the money I send to the city for that property is not coming back to the airport?
No, I think we've adopted that, so there's no law that says it has to come back. The city takes that in and can use it for whatever they want, right? But I think we've adopted the philosophy that that money should come back to the airport at least in the accounting world, so that we show that that is an input that we wouldn't have but for having the airport and having your hangars on the airport. And so we account for that in the revenue side and look at that as,
Do you use these numbers?
yes, it would show that that is a revenue coming in.
Which shows the property taxes as a revenue.
In
I
our,
didn't see that on this sheet.
you're right, in the financials that are shown there, it does not. I think in the budget, however, when we set the budget up, we did include the property taxes as a quote-unquote revenue, so that,
Yeah, I'm glad you knew that.
no, please.
If they add that to the airport budget, would it cover the $8,882 annual payment?
Yes and no. So yes, it's more than that. I think it's on the neighborhood of 25,000 or so. I think I showed that to you guys a meeting or two ago. It was in that range, let's say. So yes, but the budget that's was adopted for this year notably was unbalanced budget. We're spending way more than we are taking in. And that budget did not include the property taxes. But when I sort of presented that information to you earlier this year, I sort of showed how the revenues we show in that financials, so the fuel charges, interest, hangar lease or lot leases, and fuel sales, I added in this line item for the taxes and sort of showed that the balance over the course of the year is still a bit deficient. We think it's within range where we can make it sufficient here in the near future without much issue, but it was still just a bit deficient. And so that $8,000 was not in that original, what I presented a couple months ago, right? So that $8,000 is gonna need to be absorbed by one of those revenue sources where we're gonna need to find cost-cutting measures, or we're gonna need to raise land leases, or we're going to need to raise fuel prices or something to accommodate for those expenses. And our proposal is that the city general fund fronts the money and gives the airport a sort of an interfund loan that would be zero interest and paid over, I'm just proposing 20 years. We could land on a different number if we wanted to. And that the airport would pay that back over time, in 1/20th increments.
How many years did you go back and include the property taxes for all the hangings on your spreadsheet? And we've been paying property taxes for 10 years or so.
Sure.
And you start adding up those pluses every year, and we've got quite a margin. Not that we should have to, and I'm more than happy that the city council allocates tax dollars wherever they allocate tax dollars. That's up to them. I'm not saying it has to be on that spreadsheet, but to ignore that is absolutely wrong. And then you can get into the whole history of the airport and how the city acquired the airport, and the idea that you would somehow tax hangar owners for improvements to the runway doesn't fly with me.
Sure.
But, so anyway, in this, the three projects, I mean, I would make a motion to recommend the city council accept the 3 grants from MnDOT, but I would just leave it right there. Is there, what do you got?
Well, the question I got, I haven't been in the civics class in a long time. When you get a loan like that from the city, or when you do that type of math, is that considered a levy, or what? I mean, when we do street improvements out here like that, don't we like look at that and say, we pay them back?
Yeah,
I mean, does the city have 100 grand?
yes, we
177,000?
Yes, we have that capital in one of many various funds. We have capital funds for streets, we have a capital fund for equipment, we have a capital fund for parks, and it's, I don't want to say it's not real money, but it's a accounting, something I would carry on the books, right? It wouldn't be any more official than just simply a resolution of the city council to make an interfund loan to the airport has a fund. So the airport money is still in the city's coffers like every other department, parks or whatever. It's simply our auditors would want to see something like that, right? That they would have a resolution saying the city general fund is going to loan the airport fund this amount of money, and over time the airport fund is going to pay that back. And then our auditors would kind of check that we are actually doing that over time. The city council, a future city council, could simply pass a resolution saying, we forgive that loan. It's nothing any more official or unofficial than that. So what I wanted to convey to everyone tonight was that is the philosophy that us as staff are moving forward with and proposing. And I'm not sure if you made a motion. You said you would make a motion. Are you making a motion, Don, or?
I got just one more statement.
Sure.
Because we kind of did budget for this road expansion and tax expansion, wouldn't it be half of the 177,664 that we're looking for that wasn't budgeted? Because they were 10% versus 5%?
Yeah. Yes, you did budget for that in a certain sense, but as I mentioned before, the budget wasn't balanced in the first place. So we budgeted for, I don't know, it was 145,000 expenses, and we only took in 90 or something. I can't remember what the numbers are off the top of my head, but it was a seriously unbalanced budget. So yes, but that's we're not necessarily asking for any particular budget decision tonight, other than I would hope, Don, that your motion could, I understand where I think you're going with it, and that's okay if you want to go that direction, but I was hoping we could have a motion that acknowledges that this expense will be shown as an expense in the airport fund, and that expenses in the airport fund in general are supported by the various revenue sources we have, one of those being hangar lot leases.
Well, they would also be supported by general property taxes, just like our general property taxes could go to the Parks and Rec Department, right? I mean,
Could
now,
be.
who am I to say,
Could be,
right? I mean, the elected city council decides where property taxes go.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's an accounting thing. I don't think the airport commission should be telling city council how to spend property tax money. I mean, we're an advisory body to the city council with respect to the airport, and we see the benefit in terms of from a safety aspect, from the additional tie-down areas in the apron expansion, and think that's a good positive thing for the city. So I won't make a motion yet in case the others want to speak on it, but I think our motion should end there.
That's actually a good point. I mean, parks don't generate any revenue. Well, maybe a little bit if they have a picnic or a birthday party or something.
Yeah, yep,
And then I kept reading into this too. We've got 3 lots that don't have buildings on them right now, that could contribute to it. Then they put additional lots to the north that I again think they should be commercial lots. And let some revenue come in from all that. And I appreciate the fact that we're actually got our fuel prices down, and fuel sales have got to be up, because we're, like you've said in the past, 25 cents cheaper than Anoka.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, is there other ways to fund this thing?
Yeah.
Well, we have 70 more lots that are undeveloped, basically, on the north end of the airport. Every one of those could be bringing in ground lease rent and property tax if the city develops those lots, right? Is that how many roughly, Silas? I think we have about 100 hangars. According to the ALP, if the north end was developed, right?
Yeah, all the way off the north end, kind of, 97 there, yeah, that is available for lots to be
Yeah.
developed.
So if we have roughly 33 lots now, that would triple you take all the income numbers from ground lease and property tax, essentially triple it. That's what we would have if the city developed those lots. And the runway is not gonna grow anymore.
let me ask you sort of an existential question then. Let's just say we snapped our fingers and tomorrow we had 80 hangars on site. Would hangar owners expect that, and let's say our maintenance costs stayed the same because there's not much different to maintain, would hangar owners expect their land leases to go down?
No, I don't think you expect your ground lease to go down. That's your ground lease.
But the ground lease is tied to it every other year. I think it's an odd calendar year, and it's gotta be tied to COLA.
Yeah,
So we really you can't violate my contract, and come back and say, okay, our cost went up $8,000, I'm gonna bump yours up way past COLA.
I would respectfully disagree that the contracts, the leases cite that as an example of what would be prima facie evidence that the CPI is, if you were to raise ground leases by the CPI, that would be a fair thing, but it also makes I think it leaves the open question of, if there's more expenses, the hangar leases need to go up to cover those expenses.
And I think Doug's concern is that we did this when we first paid it.
Yep.
And there wasn't revenue in there, and we all got assessed.
Yeah,
I forget what the number was, but it was an annual on top of our lease rate.
right.
So,
Yep, and and that's exactly what I'm saying will likely happen here. It just won't be the same semantics. We're not gonna charge every hangar owner a particular amount for these expenditures.
I think you're looking to get legal challenges regarding the ground lease. I mean, just so you're aware of that, I'm sure you're
Yeah,
aware of that.
and that, because of that, the council will have a difficult decision to make as to whether or not to move forward with.
Understood.
They'll have to they'll have to wrestle with the idea of whether or not they fund these improvements
Yeah.
or,
Again, I can't wait to see the Parks and Recreation spreadsheet.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, I will make a motion to recommend that the city council accept all 3 grants from MinDOT. We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I mean, I still think that's a pretty generous offer from MinDOT Aviation, 10 cents on the dollar. We're getting a lot of capital improvement out there. Yeah, I wish it was 95.5 with it.
yeah, you bet. Item 5E, there's a provision in MinDOT's grant world that says the maximum amount you can receive in a year is $1 million. But quickly, there's an exception to that, and I don't know, Silas, do you want to try to maybe step to the podium and address that particular issue?
Well, that letter's already been sent by you to get that cap extended.
Yeah, correct. We had to make a deadline there, so we did ask for that, but.
Well, thank you, Commissioners, Administrator Stott. So, in the state statute for aeronautics, there's a $1 million state funding cap that, so no airport in the state can receive more than that amount, so it's fair and equitable for all the airports there. But there's an exception allowable for major capital projects like what Forest Lake is proposing to do here with a runway and a taxiway extension project. So what Administrator Stotts has done is submitted an exemption request to the MinDOT Aeronautics Director, Ryan Gogg, and we've been explained that this is just a formality because they've already issued the grant offers. Now it's just going through the process of Airport Commission and Council acceptance, but an exemption request did need to come from Administrator Stotts requesting, in excess of $1 million of grant funding from MinDOT. So that part has been submitted, but that no way obligates the city to, accept the grant offers just by submitting an exemption request.
So it's a bit of a formality, but, they offered us more than $1 million against their own statute, so it's a bit of a no-brainer, but I thought again that the Airport Commission should endorse this request.
That letter was in this packet, I read it.
Yep,
And just to compliment whoever puts these packets together, it's got a ton of information.
thank you. Yeah, so we're looking for a motion to authorize submission of a request to exceed $1 million in grant funding for the state fiscal year 2026, recognizing that it's ex post facto here, but.
I'll make that recommendation.
It's on page 42 if you're looking for it.
I would make a motion to authorize the submission of a request to exceed the $1 million in grant funding for state fiscal year 2026.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
All right.
All right, and then we're on to the engineer's report, and if you'd like, Mr. Chair, we'd invite Silas up to the podium here.
Yes.
Guess I didn't need to sit down. All right, so, the first 2 items here have been kind of discussed by the commission here. I'll jump to item number 3, the airport rules and regulations. So we have an updated draft, but unfortunately we weren't able to submit to Administrator Stotts until last Wednesday, and it addressed some comments from the public and then also from City of Forest Lake personnel. And then there's still a couple of outstanding comments that we're waiting for a comment from the city attorney to provide a recommendation on putting those comments in. But to date, all the comments we've received from the Airport Commission, hangar tenants out there, and city staff, I would say are probably about 98% addressed. Just a couple of ones that we need some advice from the city attorney because they kind of are outside of our expertise when it comes to legalese type of items. But there was a discussion here earlier about commercial leads and those commercial lots versus just a general public lot, and those items have been addressed in the revised rules and regulations where Mr. Administrator Stotts' plan is to share those with the commission at the next meeting.
I'm curious as to why the rules had the through the fence operation attached to the rules, when we don't have a through the fence and we don't have a proposed through the fence. That's kind of talked about.
Yeah, I believe there was a proposal at one time for, I see some stuff in the old files that said we were seriously considering,
There was a request.
Yeah.
It's my understanding, and I thought it was in the packet too, that they would put like a big car garage type.
Yep.
Where you got a
That could be
motorhome and a
completely,
couple of.
could be eliminated from. I mean, it seems to take up another 5 pages.
yeah, I think there are probably still some opportunities though for through the fence,
Okay,
you know, there's still undeveloped land around the airport.
Yeah, MinDOT has a pretty lengthy, information about, through the fence operations because it, is pretty common at, various airports throughout the state, so they would certainly recommend Forest Lake at least just have something in your rules and regulations where in the event somebody does raise it to either council, city staff, or one of the commission members, you can direct them to the rules and regulations for information.
Just adds pages and make it
Yeah.
a rather unwieldy document.
I understand that.
Understood, that's.
Any other comments on the rules and regulations?
And we will see them before we go out, or?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll send them back out as well for a final kind of look at it, and I apologize, it's just, we got a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this one, and want to make sure our zoning folks had a chance, our city attorney had a chance, and, got some additional comments from members of the public, so that was great, and, we're trying to address all those and make sure that we don't do something sloppy here, we want to get this done right, so.
And then kind of just the last item that's kind of still outstanding there is kind of the north hangar lots layout. I apologize, the layout is not included in here, but as, Commissioner Lynch kind of mentioned, the north taxi lane extension, kind of north of hangar 1, that site is, ready for 4 hangars to be built upon, and just, wanted to kind of keep that on everyone's radar that, if those wanted to be, the certain lot sizes that were there, or if they wanted to be larger, that variety, and then I know there's been discussion about whether those should be designated for commercial use only or general aviation use, and I'm not sure if there's been any.
Yeah, I think
There's
we're,
a couple of interested parties and.
yeah, we have had some interest, yeah, in the mass commercial lots, and I think, unless the airport commission feels differently, and I think I heard Commissioner Lynch say, no, we want to make sure those are commercial, we did have an opportunity, I've had an opportunity to speak to a couple of folks at MinDOT, over the last couple of months, and just asking them about if there was anything from their end that they cared whether or not we designated, and is there a need to make some sort of official designation? They didn't seem to think so. That is part of what our zoning folks are looking at right now. Is there a city zoning thing we should do to make sure that those are handled in a certain way? And
I'd be most concerned about being commercial, you're gonna have access from the public road to the hangar.
Yeah.
And really, the only hangars that have that access road without having to drive on a taxiway, an active taxiway, are those hangars.
Yeah.
You come in their road and stay to the right. Otherwise, you have to drive on an active taxiway, and, we had, when, you don't want people driving on an active taxiway that don't.
Agreed.
Familiar with the interoperability.
And then to my point, as I said at the last meeting, is there are 3 buildings, to my knowledge, that are commercial buildings, but they're, being leased by a private person.
sure,
So he or she will have their aircraft in there, and it's technically not a commercial business. But if we ever went down that road and said it's either make them private or commercial, and had to reverse it, it'd be a thing.
yeah,
We can, lease those lots out as commercial to a private individual for his or her aircraft.
sure. So I think maybe what we'll do is, Silas and I'll get together and see if there's a way we can kind of maybe at least on the airport layout plan, make that designation, or, I think it'd be nice to have it formally somewhere, so that we can set expectations for people coming in, so.
Because the other point I made too is you had 4 buildings there in the layout. Do you advertise if you have lots for lease, or how do you get that out to the public? Because my dream would be some guy come in and say, or some organization, say, I want 3 lots. I want to put up this huge building that this business, and this business. And then that will generate a lot more revenue.
Yeah, we haven't done, anything aggressively to market them, but I certainly think that's in our future here, and I think that'd be part of what would be nice is to have some sort of formal designation, a little drawing that we could put out to the public saying, these are commercial lots and commercial lots only. And I think it sets an expectation too for, you know, someone that comes and puts a commercial lot there, that they know that they're not gonna be next to a recreational lot, right, a non-commercial lot, and that they won't have any issues with, it's just like, if you buy a house in town, you wanna know that you're not gonna have a McDonald's next to you, you wanna know that you're gonna have another house next to you, right? So, same kind of thing, I think, so.
I believe the plan was to advertise it on the website, right? And
Yeah.
I want to say you do have a preliminary layout of these lots up
We,
there.
we do, yeah.
And you've gotten some calls about them already, so I don't think you'll have an issue with those lots being leased. It's just making sure they're built upon and the required timeline for the lease, the land lease agreements.
Mr. Chair, can I just
Yeah.
comment? I think part of the hesitation to really go out there is to the point that Commissioner Lynch made about not having, for lack of a better term, a backage road there or some kind of access there. And so how do we fund that? We're struggling with the airport fund dollars wise it is. Is that a infrastructure fee when we do lease these lots out to these individuals, or how we fund it? And once we can figure that out, then I'll be more comfortable really going after it, because we need to have access to both, to everyone's point here. We can't be going through that taxiway. It has to have access to those commercial, what I would hope would be commercial lots.
But the road's already there, it just ends at the dumpster, right?
Right, it's just to
Just needs
continue
to
it.
continue behind those.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the water and sewer and electrical and all the utilities would need to continue out. Well, maybe is water and sewer already out there?
It is, water-
It's out there.
Water and sewer's out there, yeah.
And to the mayor's point, we can certainly add that to the CIP and request state funds for that, if that's a decision that, you know, commission wants to make, and then we can get council recommendation on the CIP.
You know, it might be worth putting on there and putting it separate, because it is associated with those commercial hangars. The state might be more inclined to score that higher. You know, and that we're trying to get the commercial operations out at our airport. So, yeah, I would put that on the CIP as maybe it's a separate item or.
It's on there, but it was pushed back a number of years to kind of get the other priority, high-profile projects completed with the runway extension, taxiway extension, apron expansion, but if those three projects move forward, then you're really looking at some of these other, you know, projects further away from the runway that, you know, Forest Lake can request state funding for, which would be at a, you know, smaller dollar cost than these major improvements proposed for next year. Any other kind of questions or comments?
No, I think we're making progress.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have item 7B, which is just my staff report. Just running through a few issues. We have an adjacent development. I just thought the Airport Commission should know about it. It's already quite a ways through the process. It's sort of a mixture of what you might call man caves, or you know, these sort of garage condos that are becoming more popular. And there will be a separate sort of carve off for a commercial site, sort of a light industrial type of site, or small commercial business. And then some just sort of mini storage type functions. There will be, notably, there is an area that is slated right now, still kind of a little bit of a debate about it, but for some outside storage that would be adjacent to the airport. It's sort of, when you,
That violates the zoning of that.
it does not necessarily, and so I think we're working through that in the zoning code. It's a planned unit development, so there's some flexibility there. It'll be a fairly small area, and it will be screened and all that kind of stuff. I think the city council and the planning commission found it to be somewhat appropriate, just in the fact that it'll be back out of the way for most folks. You know, there might be a hangar or two that might have to look at it, but for the most part, it won't be visible from the public roadway.
Behind, as you follow over the dumpster, it's kind of behind.
Yeah.
To the right there.
That's right, yep, correct.
And don't most garage condos have a fence around them with a lockable gate?
Yeah, it'll certainly be fenced, to just whether or not it'll be opaque, screened fence, so we'll work with that, and we'll make sure there's some plantings and stuff too to help screen it as well.
They
So
think of the great neighbors.
I think so too, yeah. Fuel dispensing issues, you know, please let me know if you have any issues with the credit card system on our fueling. we've had a handful of complaints over the last few months. And every time we get a complaint, we go out there and we do it ourselves. We take a credit card and run a gallon of gas and nothing goes wrong for us. And so it's very, we've been having trouble troubleshooting it.
Never had a problem.
Yeah, and I, you know, sometimes it's,
Sometimes, you put in the amount of gallons that you intend to dispense, and then it hits my credit card with that initially, but then I think it adjusts down.
I think-
So maybe they're seeing that, they're thinking they're getting billed for 50 gallons when they only put in 35.
I think you're correct. I think that is part of the issue. Maybe we just need to have a little, maybe a set of instructions out there as to what's going on. But if you can help me troubleshoot, that's good information, Don.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Fuel pricing, we're back to, I think, a competitive price. We got a new vendor there and it's working out great. Just to be clear, we're still doing the same markup we have always done, or not always, but for the last several years. It's just we got a new vendor that's more competitively priced. We did have a grant fund audit. The MnDOT folks came out to make sure that all the things we're getting grant money for, that we're actually doing. They looked at the, Silas and myself and Dave Adams met with them, and, you know, they looked at the extension of utilities out for those commercial lots and some of the other stuff there. And then also just looked at our maintenance logs and that kind of stuff. So just so everyone knows that they do come out and look, and they want to make sure that we're doing what we said we're going to do. The operation and maintenance grant reimbursement is going along swimmingly. We've got some stuff there that hasn't hit the books yet because they haven't given us our money back yet, but we're well on our way there thanks to our new finance director. And got a waiting list. We got a number of inquiries over the last few months for vacant lots or vacant hangar space. And we're going to be revisiting that, I think, at the next meeting in terms of what we do about that waiting list in terms of,
There are organizations that meet regularly of aircraft owners of different types and things. And if you want to get word out there, I would think you get a lot of interest.
Sure.
There's folks at Anoka Anoka and Crystal that are far more expensive to be at. So, let me know when you get to that stage and I can make some.
we'll do. We can certainly talk ahead of the next meeting. As I mentioned, we do still have some ongoing conversations with people interested in the commercial lots. And we think we can hopefully in the next few months get to something real for you to look at there. And then finally, I think we've already talked about the airport rules and regulations. So with that, I'd take any other questions about any of the operations at the airport.
The only other comment I'd make is this: we had a list of people wanting to build hangars, and we had some people that have a hangar lot leased right now that don't build, would not like to build. Can we put the two of them together and see if they can't come to an agreement?
I think that'd be an excellent way to approach it, yep.
And of those 3 lots, you've spoken with those?
I have, we did communicate with them. They all sort of expressed similar sentiment that they still intend to build and they're getting to it. But I think we do need to probably put a little bit of parameters on that and say, the lease says 2 years and that was 5 years ago. So we need
More
to,
than 5 years ago.
yeah, some of them not quite as much as the others, but yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, good, no, that's good.
So we do intend to bring that issue to a head and move on with our lives because there is interest in those lots and it's a shame to see them sit empty, so.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, anything?
No, just a couple comments on some of the conversation here tonight. First off, thanks for your service here and your willingness to serve on this board. I understand the concern about, that if this extension goes forward, these grants go forward, that the idea of increasing lease lots to compensate for some of that, make up for some of those dollars. But, I think if we can get these other 3 online with property taxes, we get more fuel sales, which sounds like it's happening right there, and these other 3 commercial lots, if there was an increase to those lots, it's not gonna be significant, and it's not gonna be a special assessment or anything like the past where city actually went in and charged people special assessments for the overrun on the airport, on the paving of the airport. So the concern, I think what the concern is gonna be for the council is if we're going into a decision and all of a sudden we've been challenged with, you might have some legal issues, it's gonna be hard for this council to make that decision. We really wanna take this grant money and expand the airport and make it safer. But if it all of a sudden the dialogue is, you might end up with some legal issues, it's gonna be hard for that council to support it. I'm just speaking for myself, but I have a feeling that I won't be the only one that will have those concerns. So if there's some things that we can talk about amongst staff and legal to get that so that everyone's comfortable with it, or the majority, I think that would be helpful for this to move forward.
Yeah, we may want to facilitate some of those conversations before putting it in front of the council. I know MinDOT is waiting for us to get back to them, but they've been pretty accommodating for us.
Again, I think if you were to put together a full accounting, including all the property taxes for the
Yep.
past 10 years, your spreadsheet comes out very different.
And that might be part of what the dialogue should be, is, just a better accounting, so thank you for that. Ken.
Other than that, that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me, any city questions or anything related.
No?
I just think that $8,000, if we work to sell more fuel, with those lots leased, bring in the revenue that we get from property taxes, I think that's doable. I think, and if the city's willing to give a 20-year loan with no interest for $8,000.
Yeah, I think I think that, we have to be in market value, the same comparable to whatever airports is. So whatever, if we go by that index, that's one thing, that's what we've done historically. And that's why I'd like to see us do. But if we have to increase it, it's gonna be what market rate is in name-rate airports. I can't see us just jacking it up just to make up for this. That's not the intent here at all. Thank you.
Joe, you have anything?
I don't.
Mark, anything else?
I'm good, thanks.
I don't have anything else. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 6:55. Thank you, everyone.
I'm glad we had a forum.
Yeah, thank you.
Mark, do you think this will be going to the next council meeting then, or you gotta work some things out behind the scenes?
I think we might try to push it to January if we can. Might have to talk with MinDOT to see if,
Right now, they got the
Yeah, I mean,
letter in.